I swear, someone at Game Freak has to love competitive 6v6 because there is no way you would make the heavy duty boots with doubles in mind. Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here. Today we're going to be talking about one of the best items ever and one of the most controversial items ever as well when it comes to Gen 8, and that is the heavy duty boots. Now, this has been a discussion that people have been wanting me to talk about for a long time, and I've also been wanting to talk about this for a long time. Be warned though, I am a little congested, so my nose has the sniffles, little sniffles. So if I, sniffle a little during this, I apologize in advance. And if you guys do enjoy these type of videos, well, Pedro, show them a little call to action real quick.
Identify this Pokemon.
This is gonna be a breeze for me. It's a Voltorb.
Ah, how simple. It's a Pokeball without a doubt.
Obviously, it's an Electrode.
And the answer is A.
Subscribe to pokeaim.
So, I have a question of the day before we get into this. What are your thoughts on the heavy duty boots? Obviously, generic. Yeah, you were going to give your thoughts anyway. Yeah, but I want to know them. I want to know them now. I want to know them before we actually watch the video. And if you have secondary thoughts or if you have something to add on, feel free to reply to your original comment as well after you have watched the entire video or whatever part of the video you tend to watch. So this is really interesting, right? Because we got these Tims. We got these Tims, right? That's what the heavy duty boots are called, right? There's so many memes with Charizard and Tims and Scorch and all the Tims as well. They're fantastic, by the way. But we got the Tims, right? And someone decided we're gonna put these Tims. I was gonna say they were gonna save fire types, but that one clearly didn't make it.
These Tims.
Lame. Alright, they decided that, you know what, this generation, we're gonna make bug, ice, flying, and fire types better by giving them this immunity to hazards. And this is such a blessing because the most common hazard and the best hazard in the game, or was, is Stealth Rock. So, this little Litten, and I know I'm from New York and these aren't the generic Tims. I do have, or did have those, but I kind of grew out of those as I got into my 20s and I like this color a little bit more. But don't worry, when I was born, there was a pair of Tims on my feet as I was cut out of my mom's belly. I had to say that because she reminds me every single time. Was that too graphic for you guys? It's not like we're going to show that. Anyway, so in this video, we're going to be talking about, what heavy duty boots do, I really do be saying it like bacon, egg, and cheese, but what the heavy duty boots do, and why they're good, why some people think they're bad, and as well as my thoughts during the entire thing, right? My thoughts, I'll be giving my thoughts during the entire thing. This whole entire thing is my thoughts, but we're adding a new section at the end, and that's where I actually tweeted something about the heavy duty boots, and I asked you guys to give me your thoughts on them, so I'll be responding to some of your guys' comments as well, so I thought that'd be pretty cool. Let me know as well down below if that's something you want to see. If I do see enough support for that, I'll tweet out every week a generic question, or not generic, but a question that has to do, that is focused on what I'll be talking about in the week to come. So, without further ado, let us talk about the heavy duty boots. And yeah, let's just get on over here. So, what are the heavy duty boots? They are this awesome item that you wear that when you put them on, your Pokemon no longer takes hazard damage. And this is, again, such a blessing for the flying, the ice, the bug, and the fire types, because Pokemon that were at one point limited because of their inability to be played because Stealth Rock are centralizing, and hint hint, that's something we're going to be talking about at some point in this video, have new defensive utility. And even though I don't have it on the screen because I only went based on what's good in OU that was weak to it, and then also I have what's uses heavy duty boots as well that isn't necessarily weak to that isn't weak to Stealth Rock. One Pokemon that comes to mind is obviously Charizard, very very underrated Pokemon. I feel like we need new forms for that. Hopefully we get a new one coming up in Gen 9, and hopefully Diamond and Pearl remakes give us a new Charizard as well. I would love the Charizard Palkia Dialga fusion, very underrated Pokemon. But Pokemon like Charizard, or I talked about Scorch, or even more relevant to at least part of OU was Moltres. And what Moltres did was it was able to come in and it was able to defensively check Heatran, Cinderace, Magearna, Corviknight, Rillaboom, etc., and obviously it's a combination of a few things. It's dual typing, fire and flying, something that is usually not OU unless something good comes out of it. And I'm actually going to be debunking some other stuff as well, as we'll be going through some things, because people are like, oh man, these are only good now, and fire and flying type sucked before. I'm like, not really. But yeah, so Fire and Fly, obviously, you know, Charizard and Talonflame are Pokemon that have been OU and at points in the past, and obviously Gale Wings had to do with Talonflame, and Charizard had to do with Mega Evolving, but it's this thing that gives them their second life, right? So we're going to be going through the OU Pokemon real quick that all are weak to Stealth Rock and are, you know, don't care. So obviously Dragonite is probably one of the biggest ones that comes out of this besides Volcarona. And the reason it's Dragonite is because Dragonite has multiscale, so you're always guaranteed multiscale. For those that don't know, when Dragonite's at full HP, it takes half damage from attacks. So this is pretty cool. It allows Dragonite to survive moves like Ice Beam, which would otherwise be 4 times effective. And this is pretty cool too, because again, you're always at multiscale, allowing 2 forms of Dragonite to be incredible. The Dragonite's Dual Wing Beat Roost set, as well as a defensive defogging set, something that, well, Dragonite has run defensive sets in the past with Thunder Wave and Dragon Tail in Generation 5. Defog, Roost, Earthquake, and Ice Beam is now something that you might see on Dragonite to check opposing Dragonite, as well as Heatran and Rillaboom. The list goes on and on. So, really cool giving this flying type defensive capabilities, but also opening up its offense even more. Another mon that's offense has been opened up way more is Kyurem. Now, Sub-Roost did exist, but Sub-Roost gets a lot better now because it does not have to worry about being pressured by hazards. Kyurem specifically takes a lot of this, because in the past, the way that an offensive team would deal with Kyurem, or excuse me, a defensive team would deal with Kyurem, is that, let's say your team had, you know, like Blissey, Chansey, or Blissey or Chansey, and then you had like Toxapex and things like that. You know, you're really defensive, like a Landorus type of thing. I'm talking about Generation 7 or whatever. Kyurem was dealt with. The Sub-Roost variant was dealt with by, you know, some hazards, Toxic Spike, Stealth Rock, and, you know, pivoting and getting rid of its switch-ins. Obviously, Metronome was also something that they used to run when Metronome was, you know, better as an item, because Showdown had it glitched, and we don't have to get into that. But Showdown was messed up with the way they had it programmed. But Kyurem now doesn't have to worry about, you know, that at all. And obviously they gave Kyurem a bunch of buffs, and there's Freeze Dry, and there's the offensive set. So now the defensive set is a lot better because it can come in as many times as possible. So this basically made Pokemon that were previously very good offensively, it's still okay defensively, but it gave them the option to run defensive without even caring. Now, Mandibuzz is a Pokemon that has been OU at different times in different generations, and right now, obviously, it being able to just come in on hazards, it's a flying type, right? It's a flying type that's able to come in on hazards, and it's able to do its job better because it's not taking Stealth Rock damage, right? This can check a Specs Dragapult from full HP because it's not taking 25% upon switching and being 2-hit killed by Draco Meteor into -2 Draco Meteor. So, obviously that. Tornadus is another big one, and this is really big because of Regenerator. Previously, Tornadus sets were, in previous generations, Life Orb or Assault Vest or Rocky Helmet. Those were the items that Tornadus typically ran. I guess in Generation 5, before it got banned, it ran Specs a lot too. But this Pokemon, not only does it give it better defensive utility, but obviously nasty plot offensive sets can still be cool. And again, when you're a fast Pokemon and you're a bulkish Pokemon, the way that bulkier teams would want to wear you down, like a Rillaboom would want to wear down Tornadus by getting up Stealth Rock and then, you know, trying to knock it off, right? In the last generation, and I really want to get so much stuff together for this, but again, I've been like I haven't even been streaming because my nose a bit clogged. It's like, oh man, I can't even breathe at some points. But I don't think it's allergy. I went out, I took a shower, and it was like freezing cold out, and I slept with the AC on. It was freezing cold. I don't know if that did anything, but who cares? But it let Tornadus be able to not care as much about Stealth Rock, not being able to do that. Like even Kartanas in the past used to be able to beat Tornadus because they would chip them down with Stealth Rock, and obviously even Regenerated Recovering, Stealth Rock still was doing that consistent damage when they come in, and be able to do that and just power through them if they were Choice Scarf. Or Mega Medicham, for instance, if Stealth Rock were up, like a fake out, and you got a little bit of chip, like a fake out into Bullet Punch can knock out a Torn, depending. You know, you got to keep it low, but obviously not anymore. And again, one of the biggest Pokemon, well, you have 2 in a row here, some really great applications of it, but Volcarona. Volcarona has always been OU, right? It's always OU. Doesn't matter. As Mon came out, and it's 4 times weak to Stealth Rock. Who the hell cares, right? You just ran Rapid Spin, or Magic Bounce in lower generations as well, like maybe Xatu or Espeon with Volcarona. or of course Mega Diancie as well, was an option too. But now Volcarona has the ability to be defensive. And this is very important because there are a plethora of Pokemon that Volcarona just switches into, right? Corviknight, even with Braid Bird, like if it's defensive, it doesn't matter. It can come in on Hippos as well, if it's like Safeguard and whatnot. Kartana, obviously, though, has to worry about Knock, but basically checking Metal, checking Rillaboom, checking Scizor. Granted, a lot of these Pokemon that I'm talking about can still knock it off, but it doesn't have to worry about Stealth Rock. It's no longer forced into a certain archetype. For instance, Mega Sableye or Mega Diancie plus Volcarona was a very common core, but it's no longer forced into that archetype. Now Volcarona can be on whatever team it wants. Offense, defensive teams, some variations of stall, semi-stall. I guess defensive teams kind of goes through all those, right? So it really just gave this thing its second wing. No pun intended. Weavile, another one. Weavile is really cool too because Weavile previously, and again we'll be talking about like some people say, and I guess I'll get into it. I'll get into it later. I'll get into it later what I'm talking about. But it's really cool because it makes Swords Dance Weavile a lot more of a threat. Because Weavile is a Pokemon that comes in and threatens a bunch of Pokemon out. For instance, if your Dragapult is locked in a Spec Shadow Ball, it only does about 38% to Weavile. So Weavile can even come in on that. If Stealth Rock are up, it could not come in, right? But because Stealth Rock don't matter because I have AD Boots, it can come in and give it its ability to be offensive. So that's great for obviously Weavile. And then Zapdos, of course, no longer defensive Zapdos or even offensive. Have to run Rocky Helmet or Life Orb specs, leftovers, whatever. They just run the heavy duty boots and they can defog. So obviously those are the, the good, like the good that come out of it. Now, this is where it gets a little controversial because people love it because it means their favorite Pokemon, and these are just OUs, but like, I mean, let's just roll the dice right here and see what lands in my vision. But Avalugg, perfect. Their favorite Pokemon, Avalugg, now is better defensively because it can always keep it sturdy because it has heavy-duty boots. Doesn't matter about that. And it's cool, too, because it can Rapid Spin Away Hazard, so it makes it better. I do agree it makes it better. In fact, I think Avalugg actually had some OU usage as well back during the Galarian Darmanitan metagame. But then there are Pokemon that can run heavy-duty boots, and people have issues with this. So, this is actually ordered wrong, which is my bad. It should be Blissey up here first. Why am I not? There you go. I want to put Blissey up here first. I want to put you there. Obviously, I want to put the teleporters as well. And though I think the issues with those are a little, you'll see. But basically, these are the main Pokemon in OU that also can run heavy-duty boots alongside whatever item they want to. But obviously, the thing these Pokemon have in common is that they are not weak to Stealth Rock. But why are they running heavy-duty boots? Great question. The thing about heavy-duty boots is it just gives things a second life, and it makes, and this is some people's biggest complaint, is that it makes Pokemon very hard to wear down. And in previous generations, the way, for example, a Greninja or an Ash Greninja would beat a Toxapex or a Chansey was that they would spike stack, and then every single time that they would get a spike up, they get all three layers up or whatever, and then every single time they would come in on a Pokemon and they expected Chansey to come in on them, they would double out into a Pokemon like maybe, let's say, Kartana, right? Let's say Kartana plus Greninja was your thing. So whenever you know that the Chansey's going to come in, you're going to double check Kartana. Chansey's obviously not going to stay in Kartana, right? So Chansey can still check Greninja later because it's still a decent amount of HP. But when you have Stealth Rock, when you have Spike Up, and when you're doing this, you are also you're completely wearing down checks and counters. So this was cool because this was the way that we used to play and the way that teams that didn't have the best longevity, right? Offense doesn't usually have longevity, right? Semi-stall, stall, balance, those usually have some mixture of longevity. Pokemon that can survive for a while and you can play the long game with, right? But if I'm using Kartana, I'm using Greninja, I'm using offensive Landers. These are Pokemon that can only take so many hits or can't even take hits before they die. So, fast forward to Generation 8. Now we have these Pokemon all running heavy-duty boots as well. And of course, alongside other items if they want to. So we're going to get into that. And I also, right after this, I want to talk about a playstyle that died, or almost died, because of, actually, since we're talking about like the cons of heavy-duty boots, I'm going to get into it with this anyway, but you know what playstyle I'm talking about. You have to know what playstyle I'm talking about. But, Blissey. So, Blissey is one of the best recipients of the heavy-duty boots because, for one, it's the first time that Blissey is OU over Chansey since, I believe, Generation 4? Since Generation 4. I could be wrong about that. We can actually check real quick. But I believe Gen 5, they're both OU. I believe Gen 6, they're... Gen 6, I think Blissy's even a lower tier as well. I just want to fact check everything I'm talking about. But no, Blissey might be... Are they both not here? OU by technicality, yes. Alright, so there's Blissey right there. Oh, I guess Chansey is... Did Chansey move down? Oh, UUB, okay. I guess Chansey moved down. Are they messing with these tiers? They gotta be messing with these tiers now. They're definitely messing with these tiers. I don't mind if you go back and change generations, but damn, man, give me like a like a heads up, right? Gen 6, Chansey's OU, Blissy's UU. Gen 7, Chansey's OU, Blissy's UU. And a lot of this was because Chansey is just bulkier. It has like the bulk or the equivalent of like a Swampert, right? With its Violite. So Blissey has the heavy duty boots, doesn't take any damage, and on top of that, it provides momentum for something we talked about last week, and that is teleport. So not only that, but it also has reliable recovery and softball. It can wish up too, but wish plus teleport is illegal. But with the heavy duty boots, it can become a Pokemon that is really hard for special attackers to break through because it's not taking damage. Now granted, knockoff is pretty widely distributed and a lot of Pokemon run it, so it can in turn get knocked off. But you can't beat Blissey with the way I talked about before with the hazard stacking. Clefable has a lot more utility now with its Unaware. First off, if you're running heavy duty boots plus Unaware, you are able to bluff that you're Magic Guard. And this is pretty cool too because people might not try and status you, and obviously if you're not taking Stealth Art damage, it's pretty cool. And they might also try and set up with their, set up Pokemon. For instance, a Dragonite might try and Dragon Dance. Yeah, I don't know why I said that like, duh. I literally said Dragonite, but it'll do that because it can 2 KO with Dual Wing Beat, but after it sets up, it's not able to 2 KO. You're like, oh, what the hell? You didn't take hazard damage. But it's pretty cool because it means that the Unaware set can afford to run, instead of just Wish Protect, Moonblast Heal Belt, which was standard on stall at times, especially during a Zygarde metagame. It can afford to run like Comp Line, Flamethrower, Moonblast type of thing, Soft Boiled as well, because Soft Boiled is legal now with Unaware, and it can afford to run more offensive Comp Line sets that can still check. So this is really cool. And then you have a few more of the others. You have Slowking and Slowbro. Slowbro can also run Rock Helmet, obviously, but Slowking, no you Pokemon right now, is really good at checking Nidoking, Tapu Lele, things like that. Heavy Duty Boost plus Regenerator are absolutely nasty on it, and it has its own other thing going on with Teleport plus Future Sight, which is a whole other nasty conversation that we talked about before too. Slowbro does the exact same thing. And then you have, let's skip Dragapult and Zeraora real quick. You have Scizor. Right? Scizor, after so long, is back in OU. I'm talking about regular Scizor is back in OU. Why? Heavy Duty Boots mean, and this is another cool one, because this is a bug type, so it's at least it's a half type, right? But with Heavy Duty Boots, it can, and special defensive, it can take on Specs Lele, it can take on Specs Kyurem. Granted, Focus Blast from both of them due to a KO. Spit F Scizor. But take on Specs Lele, take on Specs Kyurem, and still pseudo check Pokemon like Rillaboom, at least Grassy Glides, or U-turn out and give momentum. Also check Weavile too. Of course, those two Pokemon that I just mentioned have to worry about being knocked off. So it's really cool for Scizor because it gives it defensive utility and makes it better at what it does. But then you have Dragapult and Zeraora. Two very fast Pokemon and two pretty strong Pokemon as well. I think it's more annoying on Zeraora than it is on Dragapult because I think Zeraora is incredibly stupid late game. But Dragapult, right? Not only this is a Pokemon that can run a Choice Specs and can do so much damage, but on top of that, it can run the Heavy Duty Boots. And this is really bad because those bulkier teams have a lot more trouble taking down this Pokemon, especially if it's like Thunder Wave Hex or Will-O-Wisp Hex, because it cannot be worn down. And this is also scary for teams that have like offensive teams as well, but that lack priority or lack the best priority, right? Like you can never get up Stealth Rock and then knock out Dragapult with +2 Rillaboom's Grassy Glide. I mean, I think that's a roll. But you can never get that guaranteed in your favor because if Heavy Duty Boots are there, it doesn't matter, right? And we'll get into that in a playstyle in a second. So this is why people, and then there's Zeraora as well. Excuse me, Zeraora. So Zeraora almost exclusively runs Heavy Duty Boots. You can see some leftover sets as well, but this Mon will almost always come in on, and it doesn't matter if it's at 1 HP, it doesn't matter if it's 100%. This is a big thing too. When you have Heavy Duty Boots on a Pokemon, it does not matter what HP you're at, because as long as your Heavy Duty Boots are on, you are going to be able to be playable, right? And this is something that's not like previously we could do. It's not something we could do previously unless it was a regenerated Pokemon, right? Because a regenerated Pokemon at 1 HP, you switch out, you come back in, you have more HP. But an offensive Pokemon like Zeraora, which slower teams or defensive teams cannot wear down with hazards. They cannot wear down with toxic spikes. They cannot wear down with your stealth rock spike. I just explained hazards. It becomes an issue for them, especially because this mon is so good in the late game, and I don't think it's broken, obviously, by no means. But this mon, and this is the issue, this mon is so good in the late game, and your answers to it get worn down so quickly. Landers has to come in on 0 aura. The second 0 aura clicks knockoff on Landers, it's basically GG for Landers, especially if they're leftovers, because all you have to do is get up your stealth rock, and because Landers is a Pokemon that does not ever run heavy duty boots, like ever, right? You'll see Rocky Helmet, you'll see Leftovers, you'll see Soft Sand, you'll see Choice Scarf, you'll see Choice Band, right? You'll never ever see heavy duty boots on that Pokemon. As long as you have Stealth Rock up, you can pressure them, and Zero Aura is really good at doing that. And like, this is really good too because it means that Zero Aura can't like ever be in range of +2 Weavile's Ice Shard as long as it has these boots. So it allows these Pokemon that were previously not as great. And not to say that Slowbro was not great, because Slowbro always had usage in OU no matter what. Even in the last or previous generation, where that mod basically was like the Quagsire of the generation. I mean, Quagsire is a bad example too, because Quagsire goes up and down. But basically, Slowbro was used in every generation. When it was NU, it was used in NU, it was used in UU, it was used in RU, it was used in OU. Shoot, I even see people using Slowbro in Ubers with Mega Slowbro because it deals with Groudon and stuff like that. So like, this mod, or this mod, like, it just made them, the inability to be able to do passive damage is so big. And I'm going to get into why is that heavy duty boots fault, is it hazards. Alright, obviously I'm going to get into that. I'm getting to that. But before I get into that, I want to talk about a playstyle that's basically dead. Excuse me. So the playstyle that is basically dead, and you probably know it, Sticky Web. And you know, this is actually a great time too, because right now is the official ladder tour. The official ladder tour is a tournament on Smogon where everybody ladders, and the ladder is terrible. That is the most accurate explanation of OLT you'll ever hear, right? They're basically laddering so that way they can qualify for the playoffs of a tournament to actually, you know, duke it out and play against each other. So it is a terrible tournament because the ladder suffers because of it, right? The reason, the types of teams you'll see in OLT, and granted, I did see one Sticky Web team. I did see one Sticky Web team being used, or maybe two, which is crazy because, you know, they're not usually good. But the types of teams you'll see in OLT are Stall, another Stall, another Stall, another Stall, another Stall, another. Okay, let's get that. Any variation of Stall you want to see. Pyukumuku, you'll see it. Quagsire, you'll see it. Unaware Clef, you'll see it. All three, you'll see it. Skarmory, you'll see it. Whatever it is, you will see every variation of Stall, and you will also see variations of offense. Usually dual screens is something with like Light Screen and Reflect. Maybe like Sash, Excadrill type of lead type of teams. And then you'll see other offenses like, why am I forgetting the Rain? Thank you. You'll find, thank you, me. Like nobody said it. But you'll find, this thing has been chilly here, by the way, and it's boots. Nice and switching it on Stealth Rock all the time, never carry. But you'll see Rain, right, as well. And then the other option that you always saw, and then obviously you'll set your whatever balances that people are trying to use, and the return of Suicune and things like that, like Cheese, like Latias and stuff with dual screens. But the other offense that people always used to see was Sticky Web. And the reason Sticky Web was so good is because you could have these hard hitters, right? That as long as Sticky Web was up, the opposition would be, you know, it would be slowed down, and then it'd be great because you'd actually be able to deal with those Pokemon, right? So, for example, let's say let's look at Generation 7 real quick. There's an easy one, but Kartana, or no, Greninja, right? So Specs Greninja is faster than Kartana, it can knock it out, or even Protean is faster than Kartana, it can knock it out. If Greninja takes, and it's confirmed not Scarf, but if Greninja takes the Sticky Web, its speed is lowered, and Kartana can outspeed it and knock it out with Leaf Blade or Sacred Sword, respectively. So this is something that has completely been basically outcast of OU, because why would I ever run Sticky Web when half the mons are running heavy duty boots? So it doesn't even matter. And on top of that, this also has to do with the fact that we have a very comfortable defogger in OU, which is Corviknight, probably one of the best defoggers ever, which is Corviknight. But again, I'm gonna click on a random, watch a battle, and we'll go to OU. We'll do Nobody's 1900. We'll do 1700. Then we have an ulti right here. So you see some variation of bulky offense, balance, and then you'll see this bulky offense. And this is more so balance. This is more so bulky offense, right? Like more offensive threats, but you know, decent pivots. I wouldn't call this hard offense. That is, but this is just something like before. If we would have clicked on a battle, let's see if there's more ulti ladder tour stuff. That's the same as that damn game I played. Before, you know, we had more. These are really cool teams. Obviously, when you see some Pokemon, you never see Hatterene, and obviously seeing Incineroar and OU is really cool. Don't get me wrong. But before you'd see this, and this would be, you'd get tired of it, right? You'd find it every single game. You see Shuckle as the lead, and then they'd Final Gambit or do whatever they do, and then they have Bisharp to deter default, because if you try a default, it'll mess you up with my +2 Bisharp type of thing. But now this is a playstyle that has been completely, it's gone, basically, right? You probably, if you, at any given point, if you ever played the ladder, I would say every 1 in 10 games, every 2 in 10 games, you would find Sticky Web. You would find Sticky Web. I think that's fairly accurate, I would say. Obviously, the higher up, the ladder has certain sections, but that's completely gone. But yeah, so that's one of obviously the drawbacks of Sticky Web itself. But when I'm thinking about Sticky Web, and I'm thinking about how people are like, oh, man, I cannot get passive damage on these Pokemon. I can't get chip to be able to deal with these Pokemon, and they become impossible, and the games become longer, depending on what you're using. Is that Heavy Duty Boots' fault, or is that just the fact that hazards, you know, warped the way we thought, and they were so restricting to a point where they made us think that the only way to play was to wear down our opponent with Stealth Rock, right? Like you'll see people with Heatran. Heatran's probably the best example. In front of a Landorus, mindlessly click Stealth Rock because like, I'm gonna get this Stealth Rock up and I'm gonna beat the rest of your team. That's why I Earthquake all of you, and it works most of the time. But is this like, is it really like, is Heavy Duty Boots that are bad, or is it hazards that are just like too much and they were oppressive? Because if you think about it, it was always hazards holding these Pokemon back, right? Volcarona exclusively had to run like Z moves. It did run leftovers sometimes, because like a leftovers defensive set, so it could deal with like Mega Ball Wall and stuff. Previous generation Kartana, actually burn them, but it ran a Z move usually, obviously. And you did see defensive variations, but again, typically they were forced on teams of Mega Diancie, Mega Sableye, and yeah, that was something that I had to do, and it does. And if you think about it as well, and this is, I'm just some food for thought. Is my opponent running Heavy Duty Boots that bad? When they, like, for example, Weavile. Weavile runs Heavy Duty Boots, and granted, it makes Weavile being able to do a million things, right? It lets it come in and out, and obviously it gives it that longevity, right? Which is fine, but a Weavile with Heavy Duty Boots, like if let's give the example of do I have my video? I think I go to my video. Let's go to my video real quick. I thought I had it pulled up. Stop it. Let's give the example of this team that I used for a tournament. Shut up, me. So let's use this example of this team that I used for a tournament, right? Let's go to this, right? So this is defensive Dragonite. My opponent has a defensive Dragonite in this game, which is always running Heavy Duty Boots. Now, Heavy Duty Boots is absolutely useless in this game. While it does always keep them at multi-scale, Heavy Duty Boots is absolutely useless in this game because my team doesn't have Stealth Rock. I have no Stealth Rock on my team. My team is actually, as you see on Landorus, it's Earthquake, U-Turn, Toxic Defog. So it is designed to get rid of the Stealth Rock. That way I can play a game without hazards. I don't even have Heavy Duty Boots on any of my Pokemon, right? That Dragonite's Choice Band, that Weavile's Life Orb, like of all things, I have a Life Orb on the Weavile. So, like, it's way scarier to have to fight, for instance, a Weavile that's running a Choice Band than a Heavy Duty Boots one, because yes, the Weavile with Heavy Duty Boots can force situations where it can actually set up, but initially it is weaker, and that's something that I want people to understand, right? Yes, Dragapult is annoying with Heavy Duty Boots because it's hard to wear down, but the chances are you could take more hits from it because, well, first off, it's going to be doing less damage, right? That's the big thing. I want that to click, right? If in that game itself where the opponent had I smashed with Melman. I remember this game. Where my opponent had a Dragonite. They would have been way better if they had leftovers in this game. Because Heavy Duty Boots didn't matter. There was no hazard damage. So, again, sometimes Heavy Duty Boots could just be a nothing type of item, right? If I fought a standard team with like Zero Aura, who the hell cares if it has boots? When I'm still smashing it with Landorus or my Melmetal and things like that, right? But a Life Orb Zeraora, if it bulked up, it might actually be a threat, being able to knock out a lot of my Pokemon. But it's initially weaker. So that's something I want to say, that when people run heavy duty boots on their Pokemon, at least on more offensive Pokemon, while it does open up more, it does open up longevity for them, it makes them weaker initially, which means that you have more responses you can have, right? Again, I gave the example of Specs Dragapult versus Heavy Duty Boots Weavile, where it only does 38%. But, well, in that situation, because they're heavy duty, because they're actually, what's it called? Because they're specs, you can only switch in, what, twice before being able to get O-code by the next one. But, at least it's stronger. It's initially, that was the best example, because it still lets Weavile come in. But if it was specs, obviously, again, it'd be a different situation. The Weavile would have to force a situation where Draco Meteor happens for them to come up and try and set up a Swords Dance or something like that, right? But if the Dragapult is initially, if it's the heavy duty boot set initially, then Weavile doesn't care as much because it's not going to be taking any damage. Especially, like, let's say the team I was using where it has Tapu Fini plus Weavile, which is a very common core because Tapu Fini provides the Misty Terrain, so Weavile doesn't have to worry about being status there. Dragapult isn't going to be doing much to me. Whereas if it's specs, like even my team has, my resist is a Life or Weavile, so if rocks are up, obviously it's worse for me. But again, my team is designed to defog away the hazards. So it opens up more for longevity, but they have to be, and I know I've been repeating this a lot, but I just wanted to like finish that because that's just the way I am. But they have to trade away something of value, right? A Slowbro with heavy duty boots is cool because obviously it can come in on Cinderace a million times, which it did during the times of Cinderace, but Rocky Helmet is better because Cinderace also has heavy duty boots, so you can actually chip away. So you're like you're limiting yourself to this. So that is the thing. Was it if I have to use this item, is it actually the item itself is broken because we can't rack up things, or is it hazards? So that's something I want you guys to answer down below. And I truly believe that it was hazards itself, right? Like it's probably hazards itself that make you play a certain way. When I play in Generation 3, when I play Advanced, when I play the Advanced metagame, spikes are annoying as hell, right? Spikes are hella annoying, but it is it's refreshing to be able to use a Leftovers or a Choice Band Salamence and not bring it in and take that 25% every single time. Just obviously, you know, I take the Infinite Sand and all that crap if Tyranitar's there, which it most likely is. But not have to take that 20, every single time and be able to run the item I want. So, should they, and this is something I'm proposing, should there be, and this is another question, so feel free to answer as well in a separate one, I don't care. But should there be a test on hazards? And honestly, I don't think they're broken, but they are restricting. And we've seen this generation that people responding the way they have to heavy duty boots, whether they like it or not, it's a direct result of the oppression of hazards. And that's it. It's straight up that. That is straight up it. Nobody would run heavy duty boots if Stealth Rock were not allowed. I think that's the truth. Pierce. But maybe, obviously the birds are, nobody weak to it would run. They'd probably still run heavy duty boots, right? If Stealth Rock weren't allowed, people would obviously stop running boots on their Stealth Rock weak Pokemon. But if hazards weren't a thing, this would change the metagame forever. Now, if people, this is a response to people saying that boots should be, and we'll go through questions as well for like the last 15 minutes or whatever, but this is a response also saying that boots should be suspect tested. I don't, or limited to an item clause. Now, I just want to say straight up, I would not be against there being an item clause for heavy duty boots. I don't mind. Or some sort of complex, which would never happen. But the only Pokemon that can wear heavy duty boots are weak to hazards. If there was something like that, sure, that would never happen. But I would not be against an item clause of sorts as well, like 1 limited to boots or 2 limited to boots on your team. But I would be against that happening if it happened before hazards were at least discussed and talked about being suspect tested. That's where I want to leave it on that, at least for that discussion itself. And again, my ice types have never been, at least like also counteract something else, but people were saying, oh no, I love heavy duty boots, you can't get rid of them because ice types and fly types and fire types have never been as good as they've been in the OU tier. Let's add every Pokemon that is weak to hazards to the to team builder real quick. So we got Kiro, we got Dragonite, whatever, blah blah, Mandibuzz. Just gonna do just to prove a point. Torn, Volcarona, and Zapdos. I believe that's it, right? Weavile, excuse me. Volcarona, Weavile, and Zapdos. So this is current OU, right? So you got Dragonite, you got Kyurem, you got Mandibuzz, Torn, Volcarona, Weavile, and Zapdos. So how many Pokemon is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. So we have 7 Pokemon. And again, this is just debunking that, oh man, they will never be used. I'm sorry, but if you look at Generation 7, it's just straight up wrong. Blacephalon, weak to hazards, 25%. Obviously, right? And then you have, I count both Charizards because at least prior to them, at least Zard-Y counts, right? Maybe you don't count Zardex because it only takes 25%, but it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Weak to hazards, 4 times weak to hazards, still OU. Charizard prior, 4 times weak to hazards. And then you have, obviously Gyarados prior to Mega Evolving, but whatever. You can't run the boots of that. Kyurem as well, another ice type. I guess the thing is, like, fire types and ice types have never been as good as they've been in OU is wrong. Just in itself, inherently, because, again, fire types were probably at their best last generation because you have Victini and Volcarona still both OU, as well as the Zards and Blacephalon, right? And when you look at OU now, the only fire types, and obviously Heatran, but I don't count Heatran in this conversation, but that's in both generations too. But the only fire type you have is Volk. Granted, there's no Megas this generation, so it makes a difference. And Blacephalon is obviously UBL, but Victini is also UBL as well. And then you say, oh, well, ice types have never been as good as they've been in OU. Well, I mean, you have Kyurem right there, still OU, still taking hazard damage. And then, Victini, not Victini, Weavile is actually UBL as well. So it's like, and then, oh, both fly types, but then you have Zapdos right there. It's made them not have to, again, this goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning. It's made them not have to be in a certain archetype to work, sure. It made them more reliable defoggers or offensive threats or whatever the hell you want to talk about. But don't say that, like, it's put them at their best. Like, Kyurem was still sub-roosting and, well, specifically sub-roosting. It wasn't running specs because they didn't have freeze dry. So the part of the reason Kyurem's OU is because it has freeze dry. It would not be OU if it didn't have freeze dry, period. It would not be scary if it didn't have freeze dry. Draco Meteor, Ice Beam, Focus Blast, Earth Power, still incredible coverage, but my Tapu Fini walling the entire set. You know, my Bulky Water walling the entire set. I'll just go talk specs just like I used to before, eat the hit and just shrug it off and go somewhere else, right? It's freeze dry that put that one over the edge, right? Dragonite still had OU usage back generation 2. Excuse me. Back in the generation, excuse me. But yeah, Z-moves as well. Tornadus was still just as freaking good. Right, Volcarona was still nasty. Weavile was running Bandit and sometimes Life Orb, and Zapdos was still Zapdos. So it's just like boot scanned them more, but didn't really do that. You know, it didn't make it like push it over the edge. And I'm just gonna pause it real quick because I gotta blow my nose, and then we're going to continue with me responding to what you guys have to say. So for the last section of this video, we'll be going over your thoughts, and not a lot of them, obviously, because this video is actually a lot longer than I wanted it to be. But we'll be going over thoughts of heavy duty boots, and you know. Basically, I'll give my responses to what people said. So, I think that if they really want to market those boots towards flying types, they need to retrofit the boots for their claws. Can't just put the same boots on everything. Imagine how... Thank you. Youngies ain't wrong, though. You know, imagine a damn... Look at this Layton, bro. It can't even battle like this. Who cares if you can't take Stealth Rock damage? But... I'm a big fan of items existed because many of my favorite Pokemon are crippled simply by being weak to rock. I haven't played enough to truly comment on their abuse by Stalmons, but I feel like you should be running knockoff or inner trick somewhere on your team anyways. I do think that knockoff is always a good item. Always a good move, rather, no matter what, right? And you see it even rising up in tiers that don't have heavy-duty boots or anything, like Gen 4 Clefable runs knockoff, even back when it was like, what, 25 base power, 20 base power. So I don't disagree with this logic. And I agree with the fact that they said, you know, it sucks that a Pokemon isn't good because it's simply weak to Stealth Rock. But again, this goes back to what I talked about. Like, is heavy duty boots the problem or is what Stealth Rock? I don't think boots are broken. Hazards have always been very good, and removing them hasn't been as great. I agree. I think that defoggers aren't always the best, and boots allow defoggers and spinners to not take the chip that hazards would cause in order to remove them. I think that there needs to be a better way to remove hazards. And would that have to do with just actually removing hazards themselves from the game itself? Is, again, a question I always propose. I don't disagree as well. I think that Being able to be a flying type that can defog is incredible. That's why Extra was a really good spinner. Obviously, it's not a flying type that can defog. It fits none of those criteria, but it's resistant to Stealth Rock. If it runs an air balloon, it doesn't have to take spike damage as well as Sticky Web. Obviously, it's immune to Toxic Spike too, but whereas a defogger like Zapdos gets worn down, or in previous generations got worn down by Stealth Rock because of that. It's a great item. It allows Pokemon that were greatly nerfed to actually have shine in the current metagame. You can be sneaky with the item to make amazing synergy, and it can help protect abilities that let certain Pokemon shine, i.e. Multiscale and Sturdy. I don't disagree that Multiscale and Sturdy get better. However, I disagree with the fact that it was greatly nerfed to actually shine in the current metagame. It allows Pokemon that were greatly nerfed to actually have shine in the current metagame. The only good example of this is probably Volcarona, just because it doesn't have hidden power. Obviously, because hidden power is not in the game, you can't run hidden power ground, and it allows it to run different options. But as I mentioned before, Pokemon, like if you look at Gen 7 versus Gen 8, a lot of the same Pokemon are still in OU, are still working in OU as well. So it doesn't mean that they were nerfed. Just because Stealth Rock did damage doesn't mean there were inability to do it. But obviously, you know, being able to have multi-scale and Sturdy always there right off the bat is awesome. Your team gets 6-0 by something, your Stealth Rock weak, Mon resist. I think it's really good just simply because it makes it easier for certain Pokemon to pivot in with Volt Switch or U-turn without being worn down. It lets some Mons be able to come in and set up without losing 20-50% of their HP. Regenerative Mons get helped out a ton too. So yeah, it's definitely a top tier item in my honest opinion. I can't see it being bad anyway if used properly. I think this person didn't think about what like other people thought in terms of, I mean, I did ask for their opinion, but I can't see it being bad. Obviously, heavy duty boots are never going to be bad. From you using them, they're never bad. But then again, the example I talked about earlier where you're weaker initially, which makes you much less of a threat initially, it could be considered bad. Out to 4 times weak Mon significantly, and it made hazard stacking a lot less viable since it has a lowered effect. It also made knockoff / trick a lot more desired on every team. If singles had an item clause, it'd be less impactful though. I agree. I think the last line is very important. I also think that it made hazard stacking a lot less viable since it had a lowered effect. Again, the word hazards always come up when it comes to this, obviously because it has to do with hazards itself. But I think that a main reason why people get mad is because if I have hazards and I'm not running heavy duty boost on all my mons, and my opponent has heavy duty boost on all the mons, I feel like I wasted a slot as well. But vice versa, exact same thing like I talked about before. I don't have Stealth Rock on that one team, so you running 5 heavy duty boots mons just means they're weaker and easier to deal with for me. Gen 8 was a generation of hazard counters. Rabbit's been getting the speed boost, of course, heavy duty boots. I don't generally play competitive before watch. Showdown, heavy duty boots have drastically changed the playing field. That little damage not taken makes a huge difference. It does. And I think especially in Draft League, though, I didn't talk a lot about Draft League, and that's my bad. I should have talked about it. But it basically meant that, at least at this point, I'll talk about it. But it's really cool because in Draft League, it was almost mandatory to get a Rapid Spinner, to get a Defogger, to get whatever hazard control you could. Though I usually didn't care as much because my way of dealing with hazards was to stack hazards against my opponent, so they were forced to defog, which is something that I don't have to even have that mindset anymore because I can now run boots on whatever the hell I want, so it can't be 2-hit KO'd by like life orb things. And even damage calcs as well, it goes the same way. Like I used to do like a Venusaur with 180 special attack at +2 does 87 or does 75 to 100% to Tornadus. That's a ridiculous roll, but 75 to 87% to Tornadus, right? After Stealth Rock, so I'm putting it into the Stealth Rock is already in the equation. So I'm like, okay, cool, I can run the rest of bulk. Now I can't do that because no Stealth Rock. I love the effect of boosts. You see a Volk and Dragon on the opposing team. You won't even want to click rocks because you're going to be like everything has boots already, which makes it really fun to run other items on them because it's risky, but it pays off. And this is really cool too. I have a life form on that one Weavile because at +2 it knocks out Corviknight. If people see me take Stealth Rock damage, they assume Choice Man, so they play a specific way. So it gives me multiple SDs, and again, it works back and forth too, because if you're not running boots in your mons, you have multiple options. They're annoying to deal with on regenerative mons. It makes battles drag out for stupid amounts of time. Other than that, it's fantastic in allowing more viability to Pokemon with bad typings, and if you run boots, it'll be immediately noticeable so you don't have item mind games. So the first line, again, has to do with the fact that I do agree on the regenerative mons. It can be very frustrating, but I also think that regenerative mons get knocked off. At least Slowbro gets knocked off at times very quickly. Makes battle drag out for stupid amounts of time. Other than that, it's fantastic to allow more viable Pokemon with bad types. If you run boosts, it'll be the lowest most, so you don't have item mind games. Again, the item mind games is a big thing too, and I keep talking about that. But in terms of battles dragging out for a stupid amount of time, I feel like people think that way because the person without the boots has to run Stealth Rock or has to give up a slot for a certain item that they feel or a certain move that they feel because of the heavy duty boots. So I do think that, again, if hazards were limited, it'd be different because I don't have to run Stealth Rock on my landers. I could run Knock Off, U-Turn, Earthquake, Stone Edge, or whatever, or Swords Dance, right? And who the hell cares anymore? If I don't have to worry about Stealth Rock anymore for the rest of my team too, I can run whatever I want. I play VGC, so items suck. So damn, okay, hope. Signature item of the generation with Stealth Rock being such a large aspect singles these days. Boots are a blessing for several mods, weak to rocks. Bulk, cure, but future port with boots and regen is why slow siblings are OU. Switching is free. No doubt boots are a great item to have, but it should be limited to an extent. How? I guess by giving it to mods that only have weakness to Stealth Rock or something like that, but it has limits. It has to be limited. I, again, don't disagree with that, but I only agree with that after if hazards were suspected or tested first. That doesn't even makes no sense when you consider how many Pokemon don't have feet. Where do they wear the boots? On their ears? Yes. Litten wears it on its body. I think they're good for the metagame to an extent. It limits how hazards can wear down a team, and that's great to an extent. This, however, allows for more defensive resources given things like Blissey ability to ignore hazards, which is why it's OU. There are especially offensive Pokemon that benefit greatly, which made it hard for us to deal with. Heavy Duty Boots and Kyurem and Volcarona doing this for you, Joy. That makes Volcarona able to swap. It's easily able to swap and easily allowing for more problems. Suits alike without Heavy Duty Boots taking 49 to 50, 45 to 49%. Oh, you're talking about like spikes and things like that too. So I was saying that makes things where easy to rocks like flying types much more viable, which is good things for like Moltres, Zapdos, or Kuno who were taking if odd HP. Yeah. From being worn out easily. They love their viability, but since most of them are just naturally weak to rocks, I think it outweighs the cons to the pros. So I feel as though Heavy Duty Boots is balanced. Unlike other items, you can tell right away what it is, which is swapping in rocks and ignore hazard damage. That's a big thing I didn't talk about, but being able to see what their item is obviously is, part of Pokemon is information, right? So being able to see what your opponent's item is like one of the biggest things when it comes to playing Pokemon itself, because if I have that information, I can do something. Knowledge is power. But now that Fat Mods are using it to negate chip and live forever, I think boots have been horrible for the metagame. Boots for regenerators is especially evil. So everybody seems to have this, but again, is it boots or is it hazards? If hazards were not in the game, you could run so many different options, right? Like I would never run boots Kyurem if I could run specs Kyurem without worrying about hazards. I put leftovers on my Kyurem. Should put metronome back on. Excellent. Fusion gives Pokemon who are unviable in certain metagame due to 4 times weak rock. However, your opponent will know your item is set up upon entry if rocks are set up, and Pokemon like Blissey needs leftovers. Blissey doesn't necessarily need leftovers though. It doesn't get worn out. This is a really cool opinion. I think Heavy Duty Boots should have had durability like 5 uses per game, because while it benefits offensive pivots, it also prevents certain stall models from being worn down by hazards. And the overall thing is just hazards. Like I keep saying the same thing, but the overall opinion, it always comes down to hazards. That's it. I'm just gonna go with 2. It's a dope addition. It made it a lot easier to use with struggling against hazard chip. It gave it extra edge to bug, firefly types as well. Volcarona, Talonflame, Charger, Glyspot, obviously in the lower tiers too. I play most of the low cut, but I enjoy the addition. They add another option for meta that tends to lack item diversity, give options for certain mobs shut down by rocks, and overall make great beams. It makes back some crucial buffs to Stealth Rock weak mobs, but the ability to wear down certain Pokemon is extremely infuriating. It pretty much the reason why Cinderace got banned in singles OU as well, which is a shame. I agree. When it talks to Cinderace, like its inability to be worn down is a big thing. It obviously coupled that with the fact that it has a million different moves that become stab is crazy. Dare I say a part where leftovers has been an integral part of competitive Gen 2 and being able to negate the damage of massive boosts of not only defensive utility to keep the bonds healthy, but also lets the user be more aggressive with their offensive bonds as well. Not only do we see hazard bonds, but we also see Dragon Ball, Zero Or, Torchies, Zapdos, Cinderace, etc. top tier threats. Even Cleric have started using boots to negate hazard damage. Lastly, I'll say for a personal anecdote, boots are really good at draft league play. Had several games where the only reasonable item to carry was boots to prevent hazard spam, and it worked. Pretty much won like 3 leagues. Damn. Nice. Broken items made Blissey OU a chance to UU. I think Spogon should only allow 1 pair of boots per team. By the way, they should nerf knockoff too. It's not that normal that one attack so useful remove items can one-shot you too, but that's another thing. It's an interesting conversation. I'll scroll down. I'll try and find some that have a lot of likes as well, because I feel like I'm reading a lot of the exact same thing. I wish Twitter sorted. Does Twitter sort this by a different thing? Or I'll read that later, Lord Wallace, because I'm actually interested in it to see. Actually, I read that when you posted that, but again, we're just going to keep scrolling and see if we see anything. Very much needed addition before, even since Gen 4. Anything with 4 times weakness to rock was automatic should have a major demerit to it. Because unlike other 4 times weaknesses where you can just switch out, rocks are always there, always watching. Hazards are a healthy source of residual damage for forcing progress in a battle, and bypassing them with an item that doesn't provide any offensive boost has only slowed down the meta. Types are already arbitrarily bad slash good slash bad, so rocks doesn't feel too unfair to me. Use better mods. See, like this goes against Karen, right? Like use your favorites. But this is a really hot take, especially from Eve, considering Eve is the leader of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee OU. And this is very funny because like that's a metagame where Stealth Rock are broken, specifically broken, right? Because there's no hazard control in that at all. And I think that hazards are a healthy source when it comes to spikes. I think Stealth Rock are just too much. I think either Stealth Rock needs to be limited itself or that. I don't think that touch or RG goes bad doesn't feel to use better mods. I don't think that's fair too though, because I think that in order for a metagame to be stable, or at least a metagame to be played, I think that it should also be fun as well. On top of being balanced, I think it should also have a mixture of fun. So I think it also comes down to what you actually think of that, like what you define a good metagame is, and stuff like that as well. Personally, I think boots are a great item to prevent Stealth Rock from some mods were really garbage, almost exclusively because of rocks, and boots solve the problem without being overbearing because of the item limitation. I like that most of the majority is that, and I'm not going to go through too many more because I've read a lot of these just from my phone in general, but a lot of them are just saying the exact same thing. But made hazards less over centralizing, definitely a good addition. Anything in which can topple the main power of any duration is good, whether that be an addition of steals in Gen 2, fairies in Gen 6, or heavy duty boots in Gen 8. Darks as well, and I meant heavy duty boots. I didn't even read like that. It's a cool take too, but I still think hazards are centralized to the point that people think the way they do. Specifically Stealth Rock, by the way. I'm talking about only Stealth Rock. I think that spikes only doing, at max 25% is fine. Toxic spikes is whatever. But Stealth Rock forced this on everything, and it makes such a big difference. And obviously, again, everybody feels the same way, I feel, right? They either like it because their Charizard isn't taking Stealth Rock, or they hate it because the Blissey isn't taking hazard damage, right? The Slowbro isn't taking hazard damage, which is fair. Again, which is fair. I think this is only because we've come from a time where this was how Pokemon was played to a totally different generation, right? Where it's all different. We've had to adapt to it, and people don't like it. And again, I am indifferent. I say in my videos, heavy duty boots are broken because I truly believe they are an incredible item. I think they're broken though, like Snorlax is broken in Gen 2. It's a necessity, right? I don't mean broken as in it's uncompetitive, but it's a necessity because of how over-centralizing hazards are, specifically Stealth Rock. So, again, I've said this multiple times throughout the video, but I believe that it is Stealth Rock that are the real problem, not the heavy-duty boots, if there is a problem. And that while I do agree with a clause on boots, like an item clause in a sense, where you can only run one on your team, or you can only run on your flying type, or your Pokemon weak to hazard, which I don't think they'd ever do. I would never, ever, ever agree to that without Stealth Rock being looked at. And honestly, the way that things are going and the way things are seen, I don't think Stealth Rock will ever be banned. But that's just my 2 cents. So, again, thank you for watching. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know what you want to see me talk about next week. And that's it. So yeah, goodbye, my friends. Leave a like,